have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
It's more of a technical question. I'm just curious, what is the difference between sitting with you with your eyes open as opposed to the eyes closed? And I ask because I noticed about 5 minutes ago when I closed my eyes, it seemed to intensify the energy and the power, and what I felt was intensified. And so I enjoy them both, but I just wanted to know your take on it.
Well, my take is very simple. You can close your eyes for a few seconds, but the energy of this meditation is transmitted through the eyes. The Shakti is transmitted through the eyes. And if you close your eyes for a good portion of the class, you literally cut off the flow of Shakti. And what you experience when you do close your eyes for, say, a minute, 2 minutes, is the intensity of the Shakti that has entered your system because the eyes were open.
Oh,
So the meditation was devised to be an open eye meditation. And there's another reason. We live in the world with our eyes open. Everything drags us out of ourselves. Everything becomes a reason to get dramatic, to get emotional, to get upset, to get, all the stuff that goes on in the world. And part of learning this meditation is learning how to be grounded with your eyes open so that all the stuff that goes on around you doesn't suck all your energy out of you. So that is the practice. And that is, I think, the reason, one of the major reasons Rudy devised this meditation to be an open eye meditation. And second, and equally as important, is the energy is transmitted through the eyes. So when you close your eyes, as I said before, and you experience all that Shakti, it's because of what you've taken in while your eyes are open.
that makes sense.
So, I mean, in my life, I've tried closed eye meditation. I've tried, just about everything, and I never found anything that works. Of course, one of the questions I always ask myself is, how do I detach myself from all the insanity that goes on in the world? You get up in the morning, you go out into life, you see all this stuff, and you get angry, you get upset, you get this, you get that, you get emotional. Well, the whole practice of this meditation is developing training inside to stay centered while your eyes are open. And I think that's an amazing thing that people have to learn because people get swept away into life, the objective world. There's nothing they can do in the objective world that's going to really change it. I mean, I always say, and I kind of kid around, I can't remember a day in my life when the world hasn't been crazy. There hasn't been a war somewhere, famines, people starving, you know, all this nonsense that goes on in the world that doesn't have to go on. And uh, and I always wondered, how can I get strong enough to grow spiritually and even and deal with that kind of thing? And I knew I needed detachment. I needed to learn how to be centered while I'm living my life. So if I'm in a car, I'm centered. If I'm eating, I'm centered. If I'm walking down the street, I'm centered. Working, I'm centered. Whatever I'm doing, I've built the capacity to stay centered inside myself, not to get swept away into the objective world, which is basically a world of Maya. It's a world of illusion. It's a transient world that comes and goes and creates a lot of drama and illusion that we get swept away in. And we get swept away in it because we haven't built the strength to stay centered in the third chakra and to be able to actively live in the world without having the world suck us dry. And that's dealing with our family, dealing with friends, our jobs, or whatever we do during the day. It's essential that it doesn't eat us alive. And how do you do that? You got to have training. You got to be centered inside. You got to have an enormous amount of chi, an amount of inner power that keeps you from life from doing that to people. And life does that to just about everybody. So the amazing thing that Rudy devised is this meditation, which practicing it, over time gives you the strength to be able to do what I'm talking about. And then you can take care of all your responsibilities, your karma, or whatever you got to do every day. And it's not sucking you dry. You don't feel like you've been run over by a truck by the end of the day. It's important because, man, you just turn on the news and God, what goes on in this world. It's just something. So it's an important question you asked, Kelly. Thank you. It's a good question.
Thank
Does
you.
anyone else have a question they would like to ask? We all have an inalienable right, and that is to be happy. We're born here to live that way. And when we come into the world, we're innocent little things, that we don't know about right and wrong and good and bad and evil and this and that and racism and, religious intolerance. And who knows, you come into the world, you're an innocent person. And, by the time we're a certain age, we've been trained dogmatically into all these insane beliefs that take over our life. And then you got to reground yourself. You got to, people come and they have to do meditation, they go to therapists, they got to go somewhere to learn how to rebuild and regain that innocence and that love that they were literally born with. They come into the world with it. Beautiful little thing that nobody can look at you without smiling. It's really true. And what happens to it by the time they're 5 years old? It's been completely beaten out of them. And it's the old thing of paradise lost that has to be regained. So you got to practice inner work and do something in life to regain that state of innocence, but to regain it with enough strength that it can't be sucked out of you. You can live here with love in your heart, with joy in your heart, that is not drained out of you because of other people's craziness and other people's beliefs and their dogma and their righteousness and how they interact you know with each other. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? You know, I had a retreat last weekend here, and it was so powerful and so deep that I really watched people being transformed in front of my. It was extraordinary. I think it was the best one I ever had. The energy, the teachings are getting really deep. And it was a joy for me to transmit that level of teachings to people, both here on these Zoom classes in the retreat, and we're going to do another one in June. If you want to come, let me know, let Jennifer know, and put your name down. And I'm hoping people attend. I know people live very far. They live in Israel, they live in Europe, they live in Brazil, they live all over the place, you know? But it's something that was incredible. It really was. It was so powerful and deep. And the teachings are taking on a whole new level. Even this book that I've written is a whole different level than anything I've ever written before. We're now finishing up the editing. I went over 60 pages of it with Jennifer yesterday. Hopefully by the end of the weekend, we'll have the book completely edited. And then, Kenny will put, integrate it into the book, into the design of the book. So it's an exciting period. For me, it's an amazing period. And I'm just grateful I can share it with all of you. And I would love to share it with you in the deepest ways possible. So, think about it if you want to come. I know, it's hard to come from Israel, from Europe. It's a big trip, it's expensive, but even people coming from all over the United States, it's a big trip from the West Coast and Florida, and God knows where else, Chicago, from all over the place, Colorado. But it was wonderful. And I feel like a different person. I really do. I feel quieter. I feel much deeper in myself. And I'm so grateful that this kind of change is taking place inside. Does anyone have a question I would like to? And it affects your life. It's like I'm saying this book, Tantra, that I'm just finishing up. I've never wrote a book on this level. It is really profound. And when I go through it and read it, I go, oh my God, this is something. It's something. And it's just a reflection of changes that take place inside because of spiritual practice that take you deeper and deeper and tapping energies that you never dreamed you'd ever tap, that become just organic to your everyday life. It's totally extraordinary, this meditation. And I am so grateful to my teachers, to Rudy, to Nityananda, that they passed this kind of work on, that you and I can practice here and use to grow in our own lives every day. I mean, in my classes now, I ask both Rudy and Nityananda to help me just be nothing. That's what I want to be a servant of God, to be a child of God. And I just ask them for that. Every day I ask, help me to be nothing. Help me to be a servant of God. Help me to be a child of God. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Okay.
Somebody?
Gender.
Yes, Skender, go ahead.
Mm, being detached, does it require a certain distance? I like to be really involved with people,
No,
but
Skender, I can't make out what you're saying.
okay. Being detached is certainly something I need to learn. Does that require a certain distance from people or from life, sort of? Because I
Well,
can you hear me?
the best way to get distance from people is to interact with them, and at the same time, you know, using the energy to build, the chi, the power inside yourself, to be detached from them. One of the things I've learned in my life is that real independence is the realization that we're dependent on everybody and everything to be our teacher. How do you do that? You've got to build a system inside, not by isolating yourself, but by living in the world. And while you're living in the world, you build that kind of system that gives you detachment so that you can truly see other people, interact with them, and their stuff doesn't drive you crazy.
Mm.
Got to interact, but real independence is being dependent on everything.
Mhm.
Nature teaches us that. Life teaches us that.
Mm.
But while you're dependent on everything, you use this meditation to build a system inside that is strong enough to where it's like I explained to Hallie before, doesn't suck your energy out of you.
Mm.
Because one day, look, I had a student once, I'll never forget her, she said to me, I do transcendental meditation about herself. I meditate, I meditate, I meditate. And as soon as I step out of my apartment and go into the world, everything drives me crazy. Well, the world was showing her that she wasn't going deep enough and building a system inside to where she could live in the world without being made crazy.
Mm.
And that's one of the wonderful things about this meditation. Life becomes the temple and the ultimate teacher. Now, in order to learn from life and to live in that temple, you got to be strong enough inside to be detached from it, to be open to it, to not be afraid to live in it and deal with people and all the stuff that goes on. Then you're free of life. But, isolating yourself and, it doesn't give you freedom. You're just isolating. And then one day you got to step out into the world. And can you deal with it?
Mm.
So one of
Mm.
the wonderful things about this meditation practice is you live in the world. You get strong enough to be here and to live here quietly and openly with love, with, the strength to be able to deal with all the stuff of life without allowing it to suck you dry. Makes a really strong person.
It does.
I mean, when I was younger, I used to think I'm going to have to go live in a monastery or an ashram and then one day I realized, no, man, Stuart, you were a kid who grew up on the streets of the Bronx, in tenements. You know, you lived in the world. You have to learn how to live in this world and be free of this world at exactly the same time. It's God's temple. Learn how to be here and to be free of it. And until I met Rudy, I never learned, nobody ever taught me how to do that. And when I started doing Rudy's meditation, it was the first time I learned in my life how to do that. I was so grateful. I mean, I once ran an ashram, and one of the biggest tests I had in running an ashram was how to be free of an ashram. How not to get swept away in an ashram, living in kind of a womb, hiding out from the world. It was one of my biggest tests when I was running that ashram, how to be free of an ashram. And real freedom is a connection with spirit, getting your nurturing from here, not from sucking it out of other people. Getting your nurturing from God, from spirit, higher energy, through a development of a chakra system that can do that, so that you don't have to rip it out of other people to get energy from other people. That is independence.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. Thank you all. God bless you all. And I end my classes always telling you that, you all are my teacher. What I learn here is, it's just extraordinary. And I'm just grateful to every single person that attends these classes. God bless you all for being in my life, being deeply in my heart, and demanding of me to work on myself so that I can tap the deepest resources within myself. Thank you. Bless you all. There'll be a meditation on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. God bless.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. God bless you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day, great evening.
You too.
Thank you. You too.